Hello,
Hello.
welcome to Soul. I am Denise,
And I'm Ali.
and together we are D and A. So today we are going to talk about from DBS, which if you don't know what DBS is, won't make any sense to you, from DBS to Noble House, the training hub, holistic training hub that we are today. So how did we get here? That is the question. How did we get here?
How did we get here?
It feels fair to say that there was actually vocal training going on before DBS. DBS was Denise Borland Stagecraft or Denise Borland Singing. We didn't actually know what the S meant by the end, but we laughed about that and we just still called it DBS. But I started teaching voice as part of my training at college. We were expected to have some individual students. So actually before any of that, there was individual singing students from 41, sorry, just aged myself, from 41 years ago, just to give them a shout out too. The main thing I want to really get over today is just how impactful all the different eras have been, and that actually I learned as much along the way, and I'm sure you feel the same for the work that you did. I learned as much along the way teaching as I did, as I'm sure they did at times. Loads of challenges teaching voice. All of the things that came up I wanted more information on. Hence we ended up with a holistic hub. But actually in the beginning it was straight singing. I went to Mrs. Lamb's singing when I was 7 to 17 in and around Edinburgh. Most people of my age had encountered Mrs. Lamb. Mrs. Ella Lamb was a force to be reckoned with and knew her stuff. It was a double first study at London College with piano, so we always had great piano playing. I'm not sure that was something that I integrated into my particular vocal practice, and choirs and all of that. So from 7 to 17, Mrs. Lamb. Everybody of that era will remember it well. And it was really important and very structured, and always did classical and some Scottish songs, classical and some Scottish songs. And so I evolved that within DBS. When I started DBS, I started teaching in groups. It made sense that actually people weren't one, you sung in front of each other and you sung as a collective. It made sense, right? So there was a changeover, and I know exactly when that happened, and the person who encouraged me to do so. Thank you to them. Some things are private. And within that, the teaching in groups became part of what we did. And of course, as I went through that, I became more interested in the whole person and what was shameful and why did people sing things that they would never say, and why did people say things they would never sing, and all of that became really interesting to me. And we started over 20 years ago now, the first workshop week intensive, and that brought the individual students and the group classes together to do a week summer school. And in that I began to look at what other things would be interesting, how we need to work with the whole body, and that was when the holistic thing really began to nibble at me. I usually had a body worker, a yoga teacher or somebody along with me to do other kinds of work, and that is really happening all over the place now. I'm glad I've lived long enough to see that I'm not just crazy. That's wonderful. But that was something that we did.
Not crazy at all.
That I know. So that's a relief. And within that, then there became a lot of structure around that kind of me teaching my school of singing, really, which every era I've really enjoyed, and it's always sad when it comes to an end and you can feel the pull to do the next thing. So that's my starting point. As things developed, then I began to teach in colleges, schools, universities, blah blah blah. But I wanted to know if you wanted to come at some point, because DBS to Noble House is not just my journey.
No. I sung in a lot of choirs. I studied classical singing. I did all right doing that. And when I left uni, I didn't feel a huge desire to follow the path of classical singing, but I wanted to sing. So I probably met you when DBS was still happening. DBS was still a thing. And there was a development of out of the classical form where it's like you do your undergrad, then you do your postgrad, and then you hopefully get to do work with an opera group, or you start teaching, or you do both, or it's quite it can be quite prescriptive route. I didn't really know what my route would be and where it was going. I didn't know how can I get from here to there if I don't know where there is. So there was a period of time of like business development, almost, of like, what do I want to do? Where do I want to take this? And vocal development, and working with all the skills and techniques and everything that I already had in place, and refining, stripping back, use my voice in different ways, and just being curious about what parts of the singing world I actually felt most at home in.
I think it's interesting. Both of us started classically.
Yeah.
My college training was classical too, and I ran alongside that Scottish shows. I'd played the clarsacks, I was doing Scottish shows, then I was doing pantos and understudying, then I was doing leads in pantos, and as I moved through all of that, then I was doing hotels and going abroad and doing hotels and stuff. And as I was doing all of that, the teaching was trickling along. I think that there came a time when actually the teaching became, I couldn't do all of that and all of this vocally. I just couldn't do it all, and I had to make some choices. But the teaching was I think a well-known backup for people to supplement their income when they were doing voice, because the things I were doing were very seasonal. You did your Christmas show, you did your summer show, you footed about in between, doing bits and pieces. So we did clubs, so it was a really rich background in the end that brought me to be able to use my voice differently than classically. And classical technique and training stood me in good stead for so many times in my life. And again, looking for that other sound and the other things that were out there vocally that I maybe, that I was able to do. And the classical people thought I should sing musical theatre, and the musical theatre people thought I should sing classically. I was kind of in no man's land quite a bit.
You can get that when you're the exotic
master of
thing.
road. Master
No,
of road.
just like someone who does classical teaching and singing all the time can quite often get excited by something different.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
And I think technically wise, things have so evolved over the time that I've been using my voice and professionally, and that's been really exciting and extremely challenging. When I was not taught to use a microphone, for example, then I was teaching to use a microphone, which was a little controversial in some areas. Then a still voice training came in. Jo still was a fantastic person. I met her several times, and she shaped things and changed things again. So for those who don't know, it was a researcher in voice training. It completely changed, it legitimised, validated and gave us safe ways to sing night after night after night. and was not the same as the bel canto that I had been taught. Again, I got so much out of it, and that became the only thing that I taught for a while. So I go through eras. It's all been through eras. Depending on when you knew me, you will know which era you were in. we're doing the only physical technique. We're doing the only psychological stuff, and with a bit of voice, as we went through. So the interesting thing is we actually both went to the same college, which then became a university. And as times went on, the people who came to me were wanting to go to university, wanting to go to college, because I was teaching in these areas and fields. So rich, and met so many, literally thousands of amazing people.
We actually had the same teacher as well. You missed
did.
that.
In fact, that's how we know each other, because he put us in touch with each other.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, but true. No longer with us, and always with us now. Yes, at the same time. I spent a lot of time on individual voice. You tend to teach what it is that you've gone through, so I taught individual voice. I taught rehab voice, rehabilitating people's voices, because I had lost mine psychogenically, so psychological and stress issues. So then I could help other people to learn how to overcome their issues. I had a breath crisis. Then I was drawn to, it was the one part of the, there must be a psychological component to that, I thought.
There is.
And there is, and we did a whole era, the breath era. You maybe have been involved with us in the breathing era. You were always good at teaching in a group situation, and in choirs and things developed quite fast for you, didn't it?
Initially I taught individual clients, and I was teaching quite a lot of classical singers using techniques that were not standard classical techniques. So, and this was a while ago now, and things change, so don't hear this and go, I'm a classical teacher and I do that. Well, there was a time where you wouldn't have, because things have developed very much fast. Which is excellent.
It is, yeah.
Because for me as a classical singer, I felt like I could never get to a point where what was inside me came out, if that even makes sense. It just felt like it was good, but there wasn't a spark of me in the classical sound that I made. And I learnt more of that from a pop teaching, jazz teaching, commercial singing teaching framework. So I taught in a slightly unorthodox manner of not just bel canto, but how could we acknowledge different aspects of how we use our body when we're singing to help any kind of vocal production that we wanted to make. So I did some of that. I did quite a lot of that. But yeah, most where you would find me working mostly is with choirs. I mean, potentially because that's where I spent a lot of my time singing before the turnover when I became a singer on my own. So it's a place I feel comfortable and passionate. I'm very passionate about choir singing. I think it's such a beautiful place for people to be in a sound, like be the sound, but also be in a vibration with other people. So, and again, I've been in loads of different kinds of choirs, and some very high quality. I don't know how to say it. Like really beautiful, like singing very hard technically demanding classical choral work. And again, there is a how can we do it and do it with all the different information all squashed in, leading to what I would call, or we would call, an embodied singing. So how do we embody our sound, let the sound that's in our body come out, and how does that feel when we do that? And what is our body holding? Are there parts of the body that are blocking the sound? So finding different ways to work with groups of people, which for some people was very new and different, and actually that would become the reason why people would come to my choir. To start with, it took a little convincing to get people on board with some of the
welcome to my life.
And that's fine, because I believe in what I guess I practice what I preach, or I preach what I practice. Like I could deal with the potential criticisms because I felt fairly robust in why I was asking people to do stuff and make it fun. And we all have discomforts about different things. Some people, like for me, loads of vocal warm-ups would really tap into my discomfort in myself. Not because of what was being asked of me, just because I felt kind of touched my stuff. Like I didn't want to feel silly or sound silly or any of those things. And that's just, we all bring our own stuff into group work. So I accept it. I'm okay with it.
I think as time went on, we'd integrated the microphones, we'd integrated some body work, we did some positions. There was other people trialing and doing stuff and getting sound out. Nobody really quite knew why. It kind of looked like it had a sort of base in psychotherapeutic or sort of low-end sort of era. And after I took a year out, I went to the Royal Academy in London and did stuff down there. And when I came back, I thought that would be me settled, but it was the beginning of my new era. And I started to look at the psychological impact of exactly that kind of thing, of the blocks, of the silliness, of the whatever was going on that helped, that made people, held people back or kept them in a place no matter how hard they tried. There was some people, I could sit at the piano, they could do the technique, and still we couldn't get to that without doing something else. So what's that about? And that's when I started doing the psychotherapy stuff. And I was very clear on my first day, my psychotherapy training, I'm here to find out about psychology for voice. Not to become a psychotherapist, but I'm here. And I was very clear on that. And it opened up another completely new era, which was another huge honour, another huge privilege to go through and to grow through, where I ran, becoming a counsellor, well, in the end, after 12 years, I had a master's in psychotherapy, as you would do, and also ran at that time a voice master's. So I ended up doing jazz stuff because I was the popular music teacher, so I couldn't mark myself. So I had to have the jazz stuff and learned lots about me within that as well, and got good support at the time. But my interest, and I was very clear on that, is there's always tissues on a piano in any singing teaching practice. Why? Why are we crying when we go there? What comes out of us? We open our mouth to sing and another emotion occurs. What is happening? But nobody questioned it. We all just had them there because we knew that that was going to be needed. You open your mouth, there's your tissues. And I was like, no, especially working with adults, because working with children was different. It was different. But working, and glorious, I had a glorious teaching kids era. Working with adults was more complex, and they were adults. They came with adult stuffs, and it wasn't the body work. We were running the body work still within the singing, within the whatever era we were in, the DBS stuff. But we weren't. But the psychotherapy, the psychological stuff, was a different strain coming in. And what was introduced then that I took on board was the transactional analysis, which was a specific psychotherapy that looks at what we say to each other, how we say it, what we don't say, what's in the room, etc., things like that. And it seemed to me a natural progression, because actually it's about voice. It's about what happens when it comes out of your face or what you're not saying. And it was a really good, hard learning curve, but it was really worth it, because transaction analysis is in everything we do right now, absolutely to its core. And that spawned in that time, when Houston was still alive, Amy Winehouse was still alive when I started my PhD. It fueled me and it grieved me that I couldn't get what I was learning out there fast enough. But that was the TA era anyway, that was very, very important and informative, and again worked with so many amazing people who were doing amazing things for themselves within a psychotherapy framework, and bringing in the ideas, the tickles. So how we got from DBS or before DBS and what we were doing individually to now was bringing these strands together. And we brought more and more of the strands together, didn't we?
Yeah, it's like, I say whack-a-mole a lot in my life. Do a lot of things, but it's kind of, oh, I got that one, and another thing popped up. Oh, I got the answer to this. Now here's my new question. I think it can be true of a lot of people who run their own creative business, that not only do you have to keep responding to the changes that are happening in your business, you're also responding to the changes in the world. And when you're working with people in like a development situation, so their self-development, their professional development, quite often you can have all the answers until you get a question and you're like, oh, I don't know what the answer is to that. I need to now go, I've been looking over here, I need to look over here now. And that might sound really exhausting, but actually we're quite keen learners, I think, both of us. We're not hugely put off with having a new question. Actually, it's quite exciting to try and find the answer. So I think all of the things that you did and I did and we did before Noble House, even, just so you know, our dog is eating a chew in the background, and now at least he isn't crying. So if you can just accept it as like a sort of percussion in the background, that would be great. Yeah, so all of those things that we're weaving in to how we work with a person or a group of people singing, using their voices. Then there was also a thread of trauma recovery work that we both did, working with the same supervisor person at different times, but bringing in the same information through our own filters.
Mm-hmm.
So still sort of teaching each other ways of understanding that information as well. It's kind of nice because we do have like quite different learning styles, personality structures, so how we understand and break things down, it can be quite different, which works nicely when we're teaching together, because some people will really understand what Denise says and not understand at all how I say it. And that's okay, because there are two of us, so it's fine. We're covering the bases.
And sometimes if I get stuck, I could just look over at you, and you can say your bit from different, say it a different way, and it just, it's integration. I think, I know I'm not allowed to cross-reference particularly, but I said in the past podcasts that detail is not my bag. When it comes to research, when it comes to voice, I am on it. So I have a huge focus for things that really switch me on, and voice, all the things that we've done together. There was so many eras, but you're right, you went and did the same teaching, same trauma work as I did separately, and same with the breath stuff. I did it at a different time, and I was there when you were doing your bit over there at a different time. So it's all been about adding in to what are we needing now to integrate in order to be able to support ourselves as voice people, and also other people as well. And I didn't expect to get out of it what I did when I started on my quest. They have been many quests for me. I like the idea of quests. There have been many quests to find answers for things that, now might feel quite standard, but at the time felt like whacking through, the highest of jungles to sort of find out, and slightly against the tide of what was going on, because there was another bit, and there's another bit. And I think now the bits that we do have, that's why it's holistic. It's psychotherapy based, it's body work based, it's singing based. We've got classical, we've got musical theatre, and authentic voice of artists is our real bag for us. And the wellbeing, the person behind the performance, was a key moment in the PhD, which gave me permission to ask questions that maybe wouldn't have felt within the framework of being a singing teacher. As Dr. Borland and as the holistic approach, then we can widen it to people's wellness, actual wellness. And I certainly, the last era, no, maybe not the last era, it's not the last and final era, nor is it maybe even the last era that I've been through, but actually losing my own health last year and ending up having to really rehabilitate from my gallbladder not being any use anymore, dying on me. I learnt so much there about so many different layers of what it's like not to be able to sing and support things that I've been doing for so long now. It's hard for me to even imagine not being able to do it, but I couldn't. And also now we're in our third lot of music, but we've got 2 albums on the go coming out, and both of these have taught us so much about actually working in a studio, working on a mic, and that the one that's coming up, the next one, that you actually recorded it, and we recorded it on the move, and building studios as we went and doing all of that. So all of that then adds in to, again, the holistic and a bigger picture than what I started off doing, which was perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with being a great singing teacher. There's nothing wrong with being a great voice teacher. There's nothing wrong with any of that. And we always had another wee question.
Yeah, there'll be another question later.
There will be,
like just today even, probably. But yeah, Noble House next year will be 10 years old. We officially formed our together business.
We did.
Bringing all those different things together and like celebrating our differences, bringing it together so actually people can have a different and potentially richer experience for having both of us rather than one of us, and they'll still sometimes have one or the other, and that's okay too. But the moment of coming together and starting to bring courses out from both our brains, like we want to do this, or this is what you're really interested, this is what I'm really interested in, where did those meet? And that started in 2015 officially.
So we're in our 9th year of business. That's incredible. And before that, when I was doing, these summer schools, immersives, things like that, I was always a performance attached. I couldn't see how you could teach performance without doing performances, so we always had a performance attached. And you're right, I think something about, it's not that we've not done performances since we have, but the addition was the integration of all of our different works and trainings together to build courses, short courses, long courses, middle courses, trainings, that could train other people to do what we're doing, as well as we trained people in breath, we supervised in breath, I supervised in psychological, holistic approaches for psychological professionals rather than voice professionals for quite some time too. So it's the bringing together of all of that then the courses took a turn.
They did. They keep doing it.
They do.
And there are loads of courses coming up next year. If you want to have a look on our website, you can see what our two brains have come up with for the next 12 months.
Two brains.
And there is, I think there's something exciting in knowing, for me, I like knowing that there can be another thing still to come, because the new ideas come. We don't act on all of them.
We do not act
on
all
our creativity. We can talk about that another time. Because I'm quite creative, but Denise is very, very creative, and Denise can have so many creative ideas, and that's beautiful. It gives us an abundance of choices, but they don't all happen. Maybe one year we'll just see what happens if we write down all the creative ideas and do them all.
Right.
That we might need a lot of coffee.
I would suggest we did that in three months rather than a whole year to commitment to start with.
There we go. I like that chunking
it down just in case. I think it's important to say that everything that we did before we set up Noble House together 9 and a bit years ago fed in, and so much that we did. It's like if you'd said to me it was 19 and a half years ago, I would have believed you for the amount we've done since then. We changed a lot of things, and I think the difference now is, and we do still work individually and in different ways, but we also more usually would work in this new era at our sanctuary, which is a place where people can come and deep dive really in with us. It's been a complete adventure doing that with you. And there's been more than once been like, what the fuck are we doing? And it's all felt very clear at the same time. So you've given me courage to keep going. You got this stuff right away and got behind it. I went and studied it on your own and brought back its stuff in. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And what I didn't expect to happen was that it changed the way I sung. And the albums and stuff that we've gone on to record, it gave me a completely different framework for myself moving forward as an artist. That's sort of beyond what I would have expected for myself, and not different.
Yeah.
But I continue to learn a lot, and the speed of our development has been very fast.
Yeah,
And the trainings have been incredibly slow. That was 12 years of my life plus. And then we did the breast, so that's out of 40, 50. Yeah. Each progression has been very natural, and although I say that a lot has been very speedy, it's been from a huge foundational build-up. Supervision, teaching, training, learning, reading, writing.
And we still both have new input coming in now.
We do.
So it's quite nice when Denise will do an intervention on me, and I'm like, ooh, that's new. I've never seen that one before. And vice versa. Because nothing stands still.
No.
Like, especially the world that we're in just now is
And what a time.
complex.
Yeah, complex world, and what a time to be involved in music. The people who are standing up, looking after themselves, taking care of themselves, doing things differently. We applaud you.
Go on yourself.
Go on yourself. Anything else you want to say before we're done?
It's been fun questing with you.
Thank you. I think I would say to anybody who is very creative and has lots of ideas, you only need one person to believe in you. I've said it before in other videos. And I've had more than one person believe in me, which has been really, really nice. But it only takes one, and then two people, and then three people to go, actually, there might be something in what you're saying. To turn your creativity and your angst into your dreams.
That's much nicer than what I said. She's good with the words.
I love language.
She
It's all right,
does.
Hen. It's all right.
So, it may well have been 9.5 years, and there's still more years to come. This is the start.
This is the dawning of a new age.
That's literally what I was singing Aquarius in my head.
I don't, yeah, copyright in that. It is the dawning of a new age of DNA.
Yeah. And we're here for it.
Yeah, here for
And
it.
thanks for coming and listening.
Yes.
And
if you were involved in any of these errors,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you. I learned a lot, and I don't forget you ever.
what she said.
And here's to the next one.
On we go.
On we go.
Take very good care.
Yes.
And if you want to catch us other places, check out Facebook, Noble House Scott. Noblehouse.scott is our website.
Noble House Scott YouTube. But you're probably watching on that right now.
Oh yeah.
And Spotify. Till we chat the next time.
Yes. Take very good care.
Yes. Thank you for listening. I am Denise.
And I'm Ali.
And together we are DNA. And we'll speak to you soon. Bye now.
Bye.
Come on.